welcome. First session after lunch, and we're going to be focused on architecting trusted real-time decisions. A lot of what y'all saw this morning is built on a lot of this framework. So we thought we'd do a technical deep dive, do a demo, because everyone loves demos, for Christian to cover actual features and functionalities. But my name is, from the morning session, Tom Koep, VP over customer strategy, joined by Christian here, Steven from AWS, and super excited to show you all of these new features. So with that, do you want to go here?
So roll the dice here. Okay. And I'm going to hope it started. Okay, we're going to hope that the video started. So just preface, I don't know how I'm going to track to my own video, so here we go. What we've done is we've built out a way to storytell around real-time experiences and how it'll drive personalization for all you in the customer's moment, whether it's in a site, whether it's in a clienteling app for someone who's checking somebody in the reservation, whether it's spa experiences or whatever. The whole goal is to be able to power that experience with the profile data that we saw today. And so everything you see here is actually live. I could demo it live after if you want to ask some questions. But the reality is Richard is going to be logging in, right? And Richard is presented with this beautiful landscape of the city, presented with some luxury accommodations. But the reality is Richard is a longstanding customer, right? We've seen Richard time and time again. We've been able to track his behavior and understand what he does when he appears. Do we know if it's playing, just so I know my own time track? Oh, perfect. Okay. So what I've done now is I've reimagined the experience for Richard if we're able to determine who he is. And so in this case, Richard came back to the site. He didn't log in or anything, but we've seen Richard before. So we use that behavior to drive personalization from the Amperity profile. In this case, we have his cookie ID or any ID on his identity spine. We looked him up when he landed, and now we're able to change the graphics, and we're able to drive his experience based on any attribute in the Customer 360 that we have access to. And so now you'll see, there we go. I picked those. We can pick any attributes. So if you think about how you build your C360s, how you calculate those insights, any of those behaviors can be used to drive his experience, curate specific hotels on the featured property sites, specific offers, should you want to. And so now Richard at least is feeling like he's been heard, right? Oh, I've stayed at that actual property before. It's not a cityscape because I don't go to the city. I go to wherever. And so here, this is just a reflection that all of the behavior as Richard clicks around, as he's logged in, maybe didn't log in, is streaming into Amperity now. So this is new for Amperity. All of the payload data, all of his interactions, his clicks, his views, add to cart, end session, whatever it is coming to Amperity. And now we're able to do two things. We're able to actually compute a set of attributes, right? Did he add a dining reservation? Did he add a hotel to cart? And then we're able to aggregate how many times he's doing these things. Right, so yes, some of these behaviors are available today in your analytics platform, but if you think about how I can marry all of these attributes, insights to Richard's real-time behavior with the facts I know about him, what his preferred channels are, what his preferred preferences are, I now have a powerful data asset to begin to enhance Richard's experience, to make sure that he feels heard, feels welcome, and that he gets the offers and insights that he's expecting. And so you can see here, I'm just clicking around, I'm adding a couple different things, and as I said before, it should scroll in a second, all of the data is landing in Amperity. Amperity's doing some work on the back end, and right there we have a property view count of 1. So again, just to be mindful, this whole panel is just an admin panel to tell the story. It's not part of the website. It's about reflecting the data and the profile and the actions and the things that we're actually doing. So again, as I continue to click around, the payload data is received in real time, and it's now marrying itself with all the batch data, reservation data, OTA data that's coming in. And again, we're now able to use this to drive what to do next. And if I remember what I did next, I'm going to go book a hotel and put it in my cart. Right. So we know what his lifetime preferred properties are, summit properties. So even though he's browsing this, I'm not using the last action signal to drive an action. Maybe I'm using it to figure out what the next action would be. but I realized that his lifetime preferred brand is Summit Properties. And if it's Summit Properties in a specific city, but he's looking at a hotel in a different city, I shouldn't be reacting to that. I shouldn't be offering against it because I know what's going to happen. And so I did add the stay at this point. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at what I usually do here. And I usually I didn't add a reservation for dining. And I think somewhere in here it's going to tell me I usually do add dining. So again, have the option to monitor and track that, monitor the behavior. And part of what was presented this morning was the idea of segments. So if you saw it on the screen today, the bottom of this side panel was segments. What's also happening on the back end is not only we're using the calculated and aggregated attributes to kind of know what the next action or behavior should be in sight, we're also using that to drive how to engage him next. And so our real-time segment behavior is tracking what my preferred behavior is compared to my actual behavior, and then allowing you to build segments and then real-time journeys against that. So if in this case, my preferred hotel matched my hotel that I looked at but I didn't book, that can signal a segment and a journey to trigger an action. Okay, yeah, so that's actually what I'm going to do here too. So again, all of this data, to kind of recap, all of the data, this is just a bit of a storytelling screen for us, right? So all of the data that he did from viewing dining, viewing experiences, viewing different hotels, lands in Amperity, and we're now empowering the profile to be augmented with all the behaviors so that all the actions from what do I do next, does he belong in a real-time journey, does he belong in a slow journey for that matter, how do I suppress him from either existing campaigns or future campaigns, how do I engage him in paid media, all of that data is now at your fingertips, and it's allowing you to figure out the proper way to engage Richard from the point of pre-booking and booking to the point where he actually shows up for a reservation. Here's an example of real-time segments. So our abandoned, within platform, our abandoned cart segment, again, has picked Richard up, knows that he didn't book, but he should have booked, and then you'll see in our journey, we have the same thing, an abandoned journey. And so this is going to load a simple journey, but the reality is these can get as complex as we saw earlier, right? We can use the platform to really figure out preferred channel for engagement, preferred experiences, and reach Richard kind of in the moment where he likes to be engaged and how he likes to interact. I think I ended there. I'm pretty sure I ended there. That was about 10 minutes, right? I was told 10 minutes.
Spot on.
Was it 10 minutes? That's funny.
Well done. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, the takeaway is, the takeaway is demo booth. We can talk about this in more detail. You ask 1,000 questions, all good. So after session, between breakout sessions or whatever it may be, feel free to stop down to the demo area.
Thank you. Very powerful setup. I think for two reasons. One, you really paint the vision of what we have for every single brand and every single one of you that are here in the room today. It's by the end of 2026, you should be able to serve a bespoke website or mobile app for every single one of your guests that come to your properties. There's no reason why they should be seeing something generic and that's not personalized for them. The second is that it is the event-driven architectures that are going to drive us and ultimately allow us to be able to deliver these kinds of things. So formally, I'm Steven Michael Elinson. I'm the director of Amazon Web Services for travel and hospitality. So it's a practice that's dedicated to the very specific needs of airlines, ground transportation companies, travel sellers, accommodations, lodgings, casino, and cruise. I think about one of the things that I'm very fortunate to be able to do, which is try to explain these overly complex subjects in ways that are very easy to understand. I'll also pull the curtain back on a lot of the things that we do at Amazon as a whole, because individuals are interested in learning how one of the world's largest organizations continues to innovate at incredible scale and speed. So what you'll see today is I'll present through this idea of mental models. We use them at Amazon as a way of being able to more rapidly understand a very complex subject, to be able to ingest that information and be able to use it, even if you don't have necessarily the depth you need to be able to fully comprehend it. A second piece I'll do is I'll talk a lot about durable truths. So I think about Amazon.com and like 3 durable truths that really drive us. It's that our customers will always want a greater collection of selection. They're always going to want more stuff to be available in the marketplace. They're also always going to want lower prices, and they're also always going to want faster delivery. right? So those three durable truths drive every single function or action that we take inside of Amazon. The same can be true when I think about all of the travel and hospitality customers that I work with. Their travelers or their guests are always going to want their experience to be elevated to a higher level. At the same time, these are pretty low profit margin businesses. And so all of the C-suite leaders and boards that I work with also tell me that they need to improve their operating margins at the exact same time. So how do you do both of those things? How do you elevate that guest experience while decreasing your operating margins? It's through doing things like event-driven architectures to be able to give you the data and the insights to inform both of those in the business. So a logical representation, we really begin with the signal detection, which is what Christian was talking about, is how do you get all of those signals? This can be structured data, unstructured data. It could be the clickstream data. It could be, we've heard different terms today already used, zero-party data, first-party data, second and third, stuff that your guests or travelers are giving to you directly, behavioral observations that you make through your transaction systems, collaborating data with partners that you may have, or even third parties where you buy data externally in order to augment the insights that you already have. The key being that you want to try to bring them in and be able to ingest them at a rapid pace. So that's where this term of streaming comes from. Now, Amazon has more than 220 different services, and I'm only representing some here on the diagram for you, but these are capabilities like Kinesis or managed streaming Kafka. These are ways that you can bring in incredible volumes and velocities of data, basically the same technology that powers the New York Stock Exchange and allows for hundreds of millions of transactions to occur at extraordinarily low latencies. So easy to bring in these kinds of information. A key durable truth I would share with you about this particular segment of the diagram or this pillar is take a vertical slice when you're working to enhance the signals that are coming into your business. Let me translate it in a different way. We've seen some brands spend 2 years trying to get every possible signal into their ecosystem, right? So that they can finally then go do personalization, or they could do something like revenue recovery. That doesn't bring value to the business. So what we say is take that vertical slice instead. Put together your hypothesis. What are the specific data points or signals that you need to be able to accomplish something for the business? Then build out your pipeline and validate you can actually be successful with those signals, and then go back and just rinse and repeat. So it becomes very iterative or agile in nature if many of you have become familiar with using those kinds of methodologies. Once you have those signals, the key next step is to be able to orchestrate all of your decisions. So we have to take the data and we have to turn it into insights. One of the most common things that you do is to either, we've heard the terms standardize or normalize that data. Often you'll create a catalog so that you understand all of the different data attributes and where they are and how your business can actually come to use them. Once you've cataloged that data, you also need to make it available to all of your resources and other tools that are inside your systems. So this is where things like storage and database start to come into play. Again, just some of the AWS services, if you're not familiar with the names, obviously other cloud providers and vendors offer similar kinds of services. The keys being what I'm presenting in the far right state on the customer state in storage is another durable truth at Amazon is we believe in what we call fit for purpose. Meaning the entire world can't be solved with a single relational database, although there are some vendors that would like you to think so. The truth is that you need many different types of services. Time series database, graph database, relational database, key value paired, whatever the case may be, in order to accomplish the outcome that you need to accomplish. So here you can see I have represented a few different specific ones. DynamoDB would be for that real-time personalization, so we can take that profile and do something with it immediately. S3 is our simple storage service. It's the most durable, most economical way to store all of the data. This can start to become a very expensive proposition over time if you're not storing that data in that economical way. And last but not least is Redshift, which is really our, you can think of that like the enterprise data store where we're going to connect in pretty much the entirety of the enterprise to perform all the insights or data visualizations or business intelligence. I call that on the middle for you a new durable truth that we see emerging. And it's that customers are actually repropagating their information back into Apache Iceberg open table formats. I'll share a few reasons why. They're trying to avoid vendor lock-in. So there are a lot of platforms out there that allow you to use their catalog, but then that catalog is self-contained and can only be used inside that vendor's platform. It starts to become expensive, and it also starts to slow down innovation because with the advancement of AI, and yes, we had to use that at one point in this session, right? There are new technologies, new vendors, and new capabilities that are coming out all the time. And you as an organization will want to be able to experiment with them and then ultimately take advantage of them. And so you don't want your data catalog to be locked away in a vendor's ecosystem that's closed. You want it to be open and available where you can connect it to the entirety of your platform. Last but not least, once you have those insights, it's how do you drive those outcomes without adding additional complexity into your system. A key durable truth here that I'll also introduce is the idea of dual path. Now, primarily the conversations we've all been having today is, using Amperity in order to perform functions like revenue recovery, right? We had a traveler who was looking for a flight from, New York City to Hong Kong. They abandoned that cart. How can we get that signal quickly enough that we have the opportunity to re-engage that customer before we lose them to one of our competitors? We've heard about all the amazing ways that Amperity allows us to do all of that, but the key piece is that Amperity is also extraordinarily open and API driven. As of this morning, we've now learned also with model context protocols or MCPs. And so the beauty is you take all the attributes that Amperity has created for you, and then you put them back into that enterprise data store. The reasons why, because today when I speak with my customers, they will say they have 3 different versions of who their traveler or guest is. Marketing has one idea, operations has a second idea, and then customer care has a third idea. And so the future beholds that we really need to eliminate that, and we need to have a single version of that truth and what that may be. So really, although the revenue recovery and the key pieces we're talking about today are important, it's the second piece that's going to be most important. In the agentic future that we all know is coming to us, and you think about the agents that we're building to automate these massive volumes of transactions, your agents are going to need access to that single version of the truth and have a real idea of who the profile is, where they are in their journey, the customer sentiment, and everything that you have known about them in the past so that the agents can take those actions on your behalf. Hope that helps you walk through sort of the logical representation of it. I think TK was going to take us through more of a blueprint.
Yeah, totally.
Oh no, I did forget. We wanted to share with you that this is real, by the way, not theoretical, because we always have to prove our work, also an Amazonian thing. So I'll let you guys read through the majority of the slide. The key being I'll focus sort of on the bottom where I have my experience. So Lotte Mart is a South Korean hyper retailer. By moving to this event-driven architecture, they were able to increase their conversion rate on their personalization by more than 5 times. Right, so you think about the tremendous value because they actually knew who that customer was, where they were in the journey, and how they could activate them. I was on stage 2 years ago at Amperity with Dane Matthews, the Chief Marketing Officer from Taco Bell. So it's a really fun story that we tell here at Amperity. Hopefully I have many Taco Bell fans that are here. They get a large uptick in sales during special events like World Cup or the Super Bowl or other kinds of things. They also get a really massive uptick when they introduce their limited time offers, special menu items. Hopefully you've had the Doritos Loco Taco or some of these other fun things. So Dane tells the story about when they reintroduced the Mexican pizza, the fact that they saw 4 times the sales that they normally see in a single day. So you also need a system that's elastic enough to be able to scale up to handle that volume, but then also elastic to reduce itself back down so that you're not inheriting like additional operating costs. And then last but not least, Expedia, who's one of our travel sellers, they have maybe a slight advantage over some folks in that they're more digital native, right? They don't have actual physical retail locations. It's really only website or mobile app driven, so it's all clipstream. But Rick Fox, who I've worked with quite a lot, talks about the fact that they have 100% coverage over the entirety of the data pipeline. So when he talks about being able to give information to his channel managers, revenue managers, distribution strategy leaders, marketing officers, and the rest, they have 100% coverage and they can get access to all of the insights in order to drive the outcomes. So we know the architecture works, it works at scales, and it works for some of the most loved and known brands in the world. Now you can do the digital deep dive.
Now I get to go. Yeah, thank you for going through that. I think it's critical to understand features, functionalities, and also like actual use cases. A bit of a dive into how does this work? I think it's key to understand, and most likely this is what you currently have, or this is what I was a customer for years, this is what I had. Most folks have batch streaming services in one event stream cycle. The others have a data warehouse. They're batching all their upstream systems, they're putting information in there, running IDR, getting segments out, and then sending that to other areas. But what's interesting now is actually we've gotten to the point where we merge those. You don't have to sit there and have 2 distinct systems. You don't have to run one middleware, one event stream, one batch. You can actually run that all directly through Amperity, putting all of your known and unknown data together. So the interesting piece going forward is now you can use all of those unknown signals, bring them into your tenant, bring them into the platform, store those over the course of time, and from a future state, the second that that guest potentially logs in or gives you a piece of PII, you then unify all of that historical browsing behavior, using web as the example, to then unify into an AmpID. The benefit, though, now is AmpID is already your record of truth. You can be able to put that together with all that historical context and start to actually use that in real time and create journeys that don't have to wait for a microbatch process. You don't have to wait for a daily refresh. You actually can now create profiles through all of those unknown signals and treat those exactly the same way that you would have with a batch process to create profiles in our platform today. And it gives you so much more flexibility. The idea being that you're running all of your event streaming, you're running all of those pieces of context to your customers now off the foundational IDR that you're already using for your business. The fun thing then is you basically stop any of that stale information and you run that through subsecond frequency, subsecond profiles to be able to bring that together with all of your other information. And it eliminates that period of time where someone potentially could choose another brand. They said, oh, you didn't market to me. You didn't actually give me the information as fast as possible. I went over to customer X, customer Y, customer Z. The last is it's universal. It's open. To Steven's point, we can now bring in all that information for different applications. It's all API based. So you can actually remove a lot of those different features and start to build your tech stack the way that you want, not being beholden to having a stream service for one piece of your information, an event processing service for over here, other information up, down from like your upstream systems. And then the fun thing that as a customer is efficiency gains. And efficiency not just in a time and service perspective, but efficiency actually in a MarTech spend perspective. So I would audit my tech stack and say, do I have event processor X, event processor Z, and do I still need to own it? Because then you can actually take that money and reinvest it back into the platforms that have all of your customer information in the first place. Giving a bit of guidelines on Koep capabilities. So using again on the web and the app side, event streaming. So you can bring all that information in, manage large scale data sets. I mean, web information is massive, but we have the speed and the actual processing ability to bring that in all now at the AmpID. The other is unifying all of your real time and your batch processes. So you don't have to sit there and wait for a stream service to send that information, bring it back into your upstream system, batch it into Amperity. All of that now runs side by side in which you can keep all that data together, all at the AmpID level to then be able to trigger different journeys based on all those real-time context variables. The idea is that you have all that information and using web as the example or app or opens or clicks or email information, all of that becomes stream services that you can go trigger additional journeys and real-time information to send out. And the last is still using, obviously, profiles that are known to you from all of your upstream systems and all of your historical context to then additionally add sub-second information from a web or an app and getting directly into, yep, this person's looking for something special. We know you're shopping for X, Y, and Z because you've already given us some of your wedding information in the past. Now I can reach out to you instantaneously with a very specific offer that is unified at the AmpID, so you're also not merging a different web ID to an AmpID to a million different IDs that each one of these systems has. Pass back to you.
So one of the other fun, durable truths we talk about are these market realities. Now, travel and hospitality customers like to look into industry adjacent in order to get inspired. So they'll often look at retail or consumer packaged goods, even sometimes healthcare, because like patient care is very similar to how we want to care for our travelers and our guests. But the thing that's super unique about travel and hospitality is something that we call the look to book ratio. Anybody ever heard about look to book ratios? Few folks from travel and hospitality. So if you think about yourself, and you were dreaming of doing a spring break or taking a summer vacation with your family this year, when did you start doing that dreaming? When did you start doing that planning? The average consumer does it 8 months in advance. So you think about you start to get the inspiration, maybe you go onto a website and you just start to go, okay, I'm looking for a warm beach vacation. You just start browsing around trying to figure out, well, where those beaches are. You find Mexico, you find Portugal, you find Florida, maybe even California. A couple months later, you're back, now you've settled in, oh, it's going to be Mexico. Well, where in Mexico is going to be? You start narrowing into cities. And so you start to get this sense for the look to book ratio. So historically, over the last like 15 years, that look to book ratio in travel and hospitality has actually been 10,000 to 1. Sounds phenomenal, but when you actually think about it, when you're looking for an airline trip, it's actually a collection of segments. And what you see offered to you for your airline trip is actually customized and put together in a bundle only at the time when you're requesting it, right? Because you could always do one stop here, you could go direct, you could do 2 stops. As we've moved into the AI world that we're kind of into today, and we have a lot more meta search and online travel agencies like Booking, Expedia, and the rest that we presented, we've actually seen the look to book ratio explode from 10,000 to 1 to 100,000 to 1. So you think about if you go on an Expedia and you put in a beach vacation, how many options Expedia is going to present back to you? That's how you start to get to those numbers. As we move to an agentic future, there are many that are predicting that number will become 1 million to 1. Right? So the agents are going to go out and scour the entirety of the world, pull together combinations we can never even imagine, and then try to bring them back to you, the consumer, to be able to book. So explosion in look to book and how travel and hospitality has to attack this is something that we actually believe every other industry could learn from, because you could take those skills and then apply them to industries that don't have those kinds of conversion ratios. So first and foremost, and we've heard about it a few times here today, is the fact that customers have multiple personas. I'll go back to myself and the Taco Bell as a joke, but my Taco Bell order during Monday to Friday, in the lunch hour, is vastly different than my Taco Bell order on the weekend when the Knicks are playing. Now, you think about the particular, details that Christian shared with us capturing, but you can also think about what Taco Bell could do with that first-party data, second-party data, and even third-party data if they started to link my ordering habits to external events, and they started to recognize that, oh, I do place orders every time that the Knicks are playing. And then you think about the personalization or the conversion or the offers that they might make to me with those insights. So it's not just enough to know who the person is, you have to know the occasion, and you have to know why it is that they're coming to visit you. The second piece is there's absolutely a convenience tax on top of all this. The expectations of all travelers and guests is just continuing to rise. We as consumers expect every single brand to understand us, and we expect them to do it across all channels. So at Amazon, we use a term that's called unified commerce. Most of the rest of the world calls it omnichannel. The reason they call it omnichannel is actually counterintuitive, right? So omni is Latin or Greek, meaning one. And the reason why people do it is because they actually don't have one channel and they want to try to treat it as if it was one channel. But that's what customers expect, right? If I put a promotion in front of you and I call the contact center, you better know that that promotion was just sent to me so that your agent can help to assist me. Last but not least, travel and hospitality has the most perishable inventory of all. If I was a retailer, I could leave that item on a shelf. But in travel and hospitality, that's not the case. For a cruise line that's unsuccessful in selling that room today, it means that for 7 days during the duration of that cruise, they will be unable to sell auxiliary items. They won't sell spa, they won't sell restaurants, they won't have anybody in the casino. And so the amount of revenue that's actually lost through the perishability of travel and hospitality is super unique. And so we've talked about it really today, and I just want to reinforce it. That first objective and the one that Amperity and we've all been speaking about today is really the revenue recovery, revenue generation, revenue recognition, or the rest of those things. But it also leads us back to that dual path we talked about earlier, is that you want to give your entire organization access to that governed, single source of the truth, high quality, secure information, so you can continue to accelerate outcomes in the future and make sure that you're also ready for agentic.
Awesome. So wrapping up here, the future is unlimited. I went through marketing digital use cases. I think that's the most easy to comprehend in terms of stream services and understanding digital personalization. But really, I mean, you could do this in scenarios for loyalty or operations. So the idea being you could stream geotags, you could stream check-in information, and then combine it with all of the different things you already know about that guest, and trigger a welcome to X hotel. Or you might know that the time they check in, they qualify for a higher level of tier in like a loyalty program. That is now instantaneously updated, available, so then you can actually bring that and say, hey, by the time they walk from the check-in desk to their room, they now have their updated information on a television and it's changed their loyalty. Also, you could add in upsell based on a qualification for a loyalty program. So all of those things now become much more operational. We use web and digital, but they're signals, they're events, they're traits. Like you can just send that information at the speed of what your customers actually expect, hyper-personalizing those downstream systems within as fast as you possibly can. The last is setting up success for AI. So historical AI has not been bringing in things like event streams and web information. This can now potentially in the future bring in context about web personalization to train models in real time. You don't have to sit there and process. You don't have to sit there and wait for your batch update or your Azure to function in a 4-hour batch. Like there's things now you can bring in that are real time that AI can go read and update back into your own tenant. And then last is just continuing to bring in all of the information closed loop. You can bring in your email opens, clicks, web behavior, and all of that becomes instantaneous. You don't have to wait for upstream or downstream systems to process it. It's all going through your Amperity tenant. With that, 3 key takeaways. Finally able to unify unknown to known. You can bring that information in, tie it to an AMP ID, and turn that on at the speed that your customers expect. So you don't have to wait for upstream microbatch. You can actually do that in mass and actually cycle that through like a real-time journey. The last is applications outside of just the digital experience. You don't have to do that only, but the idea is that we're setting this up for success, that you can actually run so many different programs through this tool. And with that, thank you. There's Q&A, but we've got a minute before the next session. So if you want, we're happy to talk about this afterwards.
Any questions? We have a mic.
I think we're at time. We're close to time. We got 10? Oh, I saw the 5-minute mark, so I didn't know if we were getting close.
Yeah, let's go for 5 more.
Okay.
Good.
If you have questions now, we are happy to take them. So, yeah.
So just a quick question. For example, if a retail got huge traffic coming and they are customers browsing at multiple locations, generally people expect that lookups happen in some milliseconds. Does the personalization, that the way that laid out can support that kind of traffic and
It would be able to support the traffic. I think
Yeah.
to your personalization point, it would be then how are you streaming that to your downstream CMS, and the CMS then
I mean the
personalization.
real-time personalization.
Yeah.
How can it scale to a huge traffic and support that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the best examples we give, and again, just folks love to learn from Amazon, but if you think about, hopefully you shop at Amazon.com, when you log on to your front page is vastly different, right, from everybody else's front page, because it's based on what you've purchased, it's based on things that would support the purchases that you've made, and so this idea that everybody should have a one-off page for themselves is absolutely doable at scale.
So that is scalable, or like you have particular TPS that can support, or it can be scalable to whatever we need as a customer?
Absolutely, sure. I mean, there's always the cost-benefit trade-off, right? So you have to make architectural decisions, and there may be a cost to being able to do either small portions of that or it in entirety, but it's absolutely doable today. Yep.
The data that we got from the source in real time, does the identity resolution happen in real time in the backend in Amperity?
To get sourced back up into the profile. Yeah, so there's a whole set of architecture diagrams that are past this, but everything will go back into the Amperity tenant, stored back to the master profile.
So all that is happening
Yes.
real time?
Yes. Yep.
It's always good to define real time, by the way.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like you also have to understand the use case back to that piece, because every brand has a different need. So sometimes they'll say, we want real time, and then, well, what's the use case you're trying to achieve? And it's actually okay that it could be done within the 5 minutes. Like in his example of checking in and wanting to be able to update the television, 5 minutes is fine. If it's on a website for an e-commerce site, right, maybe it has to be subsecond. So you also have to define what real time means.
Yeah, but the capabilities to that point is there. Cool. Well, thank you all very much. Oh, you got another one here.
I mean, there was some conversation, but I just want to reconfirm. When you say real-time IDR, is that a new customer comes and browsing, that will stitch to an existing customer with if the identifier is matching, but it doesn't do real-time stitching. Do you agree? The real-time stitching is what I was thinking.
Oh,
I got to
interesting.
know that will happen in late June or July. but for now it's just real-time.
So the real-time information is being brought in, and then if we do not know them, we'll set like a temp amp ID. We always store the amp ID. We'll always true it up as fast as possible, though. But to your point, we'll need a piece of PII to be able to join to the master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the real-time stitching is a feature that comes later.
Yeah. I don't know if you-
Yeah, I was going to say just one other thing. So what we want in that example is the identifiers to be on the graph or in the graph so that, as I showed you in the example, right, the cookie ID, haven't seen you in 6 months, but your cookie ID still exists. The cookie ID is in the graph, we can find you, right? So that definition of real-time stitching, we're defining it as real-time recognition. To the other point, you got a new phone, you got a new computer, whatever it is, we have never logged in. We'll give you that AMP ID. The minute you define a signal, you log in, you give your loyalty ID, whatever it may be, we will then be able to link you back to your existing graph and say, oh, the new or the temporary Amperity ID matches this existing Amperity ID, and those records will collapse. So if you browse the site for half hour, you have all those signals will then just be attached to your original Amperity ID. What we are, just to be clear, what we're not doing is running the probabilistic matching algorithms that we talk about in real time, at least not yet. So the idea is that there will always be some level of identity recognition, record collapsing, and then the deterministic probabilistic batch processes, that we have today as your overall architecture, to the point was made earlier. Uh-oh.
So for the streaming, the real time, I think you said it had a REST API call. Are you putting Amperity tags on the site, or what are you doing? How is that happening?
That's a great question. So, can everyone hear me? So, Amperity does not have a tag at the moment, and I use that term in quotes. There is a world where there may be a tag in the future. We'll still continue to push the idea that you already have enough tags. So our API calls should be integrated with those tags to capture those things that you want us to capture. But again, that doesn't stop the idea that we in the future may build a tag to alleviate some of the strain of existing tags, but it just kind of depends again on your architectural decisions and how you want to operate. But everything that you saw there in my video was actual real-time API calls in and out of the platform. There was one more. Yeah.
So I never use Amperity, but I'm more from Adobe Stack. I'm from Winamp. We use both. My question is, when you are having anonymous visitors and pseudo profile, Adobe has something called ECID, which I'm sure same as Amperity ID. Generally speaking, if you don't stitch that profile to a real known profile, it remains as pseudonymous profile, but it increases your profile numbers because there are a lot of bots out there in the market, and it just artificially increase the number of profiles which are not real profile. So generally, Adobe has a time to live set up like 7 days. If they don't merge, you clean them up. Or it can be configurable to 14 days.
Yeah.
Do you have something similar?
The idea was that you'd be able to configure it, right? So again, with travel and hospitality, to Steven's point, right, you're looking over longer periods of time, then maybe you're looking for what taco to buy, or what more in the moment or in a short period of time frame. So again, as whether retail or travel and hospitality, you'd have that opportunity to configure the window for maintaining those anonymous Amperity IDs.
All right, thanks.
And we have seen, I'll just share. We have seen, it's a choice. We have seen some customers configure that longevity for 13 months. So if you think about the airline example I gave, where the average customer is taking 8 months to go from dreaming to booking, particularly some customers have chosen to have that durability for 13 months because they value the ability to convert. But it's up to you as the brand to choose the durability of that.
I mean, there is a license limit, let's say 20 million profiles.
Always a cost to everything. Back to trade-off decisions. Awesome. Thank you. I think the next session is at 2:15, or is there one more? One more question, sorry.
In that initial identification, if somebody provides PI that is shared, like a phone number, how is the choice point between any existing AMP IDs chosen in that sort of a race condition?
So, yeah.
Run this back.
I think, again, that's the ability for Amperity to provide the level of flexibility to determine where or which graph you want to put that phone number in. You could put it in both, and you could track it to both. And then, again, as you're thinking about your long-term, durable, calculated insights on profiles, you can then make the decision, do I want to move it out of one or move it into the other? But again, that's also kind of a opportunity to talk about householding in Amperity. So it's not just householding on physical block address, but it can be householding on anything. So you can think about, we'll now start to create calculated attributes around a specific phone number, if that's a key to whatever property or site it is, loyalty ID, whatever. So again, I don't want to ring the bell on flexibility, but as we really start to pull the curtain back on some of these things, you are in control of how you want to define it, align it to your use cases, align it to the projected outcomes. And the goal will be, to the point made earlier, continue to test, continue to refine, and iterate.